Welcome, everyone. My name is Jay. This is Conscious Conversations with Jay. And we are building a hub here for healing, for transformation, and personal spiritual development. One of the ways in which I'm doing that is I'm speaking to people from all walks of life, people who I feel have great wisdom and insight to share with you guys to help you with your healing journey, with your conscious evolution, and hopefully to put some hope out into the world and as much information as possible, as much knowledge as we can out into the world to help you guys with your healing, like I said, and with all aspects of personal spiritual development. So I have my friend here today, Miss Lisa Danza. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello, Jay. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me here.
Appreciate you being here and looking forward to the conversation. So Lisa you've just got qualified as a PCC coach, is that right? When did that
Yes,
happen?
yes. That happened in October. October,
Nice.
October last year, 24. Yeah.
Nice. So for those of you who don't know, PCC is a credential that you can get with the International Coaching Federation, and that means that to be able to sit that exam, you need to have at least 500 hours coaching up. So that means Lisa has quite she has quite a lot of experience and hours under her belt with coaching, and looking forward to diving in to find out a little bit more about what makes you tick, Lisa, and what drew you to coaching and all of that good juicy stuff. So let's just dive straight in. I love asking people this because I'm fascinated by it. Did you know when you were growing up that you wanted to be a life coach? Was it like, I know as soon as I could talk and work that I just want to be a coach? That's exactly what I want to do. Was that your experience?
No, it's definitely not. Look, growing up for me wasn't a safe space at all. It was a pretty rough childhood, and yeah, I didn't have support around me, or there was care, the basics, looking after care like food and shelter and all of that. But I didn't have support around me through human beings around me, and I just kind of learnt to be very much alone. Um, and, as I was growing up, I used to mimic my school teacher, I think, and think I was going to be a teacher and stuff. But,
Mm.
it's a good question because I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was just kind of struggling to be okay with myself. But it's interesting because with the coaching, it's like coaching teaches you how to hold a space. Coaching um, teaches you how to listen and how to be curious and just to have that safety and hold that safety in the space for a group of people or another person. And it's like, I love working with other people to help them grow and evolve. It's such a privilege. But really, it's something I've learned to do for myself. So it's like with the coaching, I can really appreciate how important that is. Like you mentioned the word like vulnerability, or maybe I was thinking vulnerability when you're making that introduction. I'm thinking, oh no, I better live up to some expectations here. And I could feel that vulnerability in me. It's like the thing with coaching as a child, it wasn't okay like to be vulnerable, but it's like with the coaching, it does help you hold a space where someone can be vulnerable with themselves, open with themselves, and open to exploring. So I didn't know that it would be such a gift and help me value this so much now. So thanks for the question. Yeah,
Mm.
I didn't know, but there you go. It was a gift.
It makes sense, Lisa, and I speak to a lot of people about this, and a lot of people share that they didn't really know when entering into coaching how helpful it would be for them and their own development. Like you're talking about holding space for yourself and caring and vulnerability and all these skills that we learn when we study coaching and we start doing that for other people. it's like we learn how to parent and coach ourselves to be our own supports, to be our own support, which is just brilliant. And there's a lot of people that, yeah, that have shared with me that that is such a valuable part of them being a coach, is just how much it's gifted them for their own development, which is fantastic. And, that's my experience as well.
Yeah,
So I
that
understand
parenting,
that.
it's that's a good word, because you learn how to self-parent, how to self-coach, be a good, like, inner coach, be your own good, parent. It's like, I'm not knocking the parents and what they were like and what they did, but it's like, we know how we can do this now. And it's a great
Yeah.
gift for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets to a point when we're adults that it becomes our responsibility. If there was any little things that we missed as children or teenagers or as young adults, it becomes our responsibility to really give that to ourselves. And as we've grown out, and perhaps in those early stages where we were going through difficult situations and things that we couldn't deal with, we just didn't have the tools on board. So most of us survive, and we create whatever coping mechanisms we can just to get through. And then
Mm,
later in life, it's like,
yeah.
oh, I've got some unresolved stuff because that wasn't okay. Now I'm an adult, I realize how fucked up some of the stuff was that I was experiencing, whether it's at
Yeah.
home or in the education system or medical system, sport, whatever you've been
Yeah.
involved in. And yeah, it's just wonderful to hear again you sharing about the gifts that are woven in coaching that can help us with that healing journey.
And if we can, like, it's so helpful, like, to hear you say that, we do so much reflecting, like, in coaching. It's like, we're being I guess a product of it as well. And, like, that's the
Yeah.
other piece, because the more we we become that, and we live that, and we breathe that, then that's the gift for the client. It's not
Mm,
so much about, look at me and you need to be like this. It's like, I'm holding this for myself, and I'm practicing this for myself, and this is how it's helping. It's just by resonating, just by being with
yeah.
someone, you can bring your genuine self, like, with that experience, that wisdom. You don't have to say anything about it, but that's also something else that you bring. It's like, it's
Yep.
genuine.
Yeah. Thank you. Brilliant point, Lisa. And there is the field theory out there where it's like so much happens in a coaching session or mentoring, any therapeutic session. There's so much held in that field, and there's so much communicated in that field, and most of it isn't verbally with words. So it's like you were talking about a resonance there. There's so much held within our space, and I think it's so true there. The just being an example, and people can feel that when you're actually
Mm.
living it. And I think there's a big difference there. And sadly, I don't think everyone in these positions as coaches, mentors, teachers, counselors, therapists, sadly, I don't think all of them hold themselves to a really high standard and really walk the talk. So brilliant if ones are doing that, because it really is of such value to the clients when their coach is actually living the process and an example of how it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember the moment when you were like, okay, coaching it is? Do you remember that time, or were you thinking about it for a while? Do you remember?
We might digress a bit, and I think it relates to, yes, I do remember when, like, my heart just said, yes, this is so worth doing. I really want to learn. And that was actually, um Belinda. It was Belinda
Uh,
that that made the difference, like, to me. And, we were just saying how, when being an example, by living it, by breathing it, so much can happen in that space with a client. Um, Belinda, to me, was a walking, talking example. And I like, I always look at the leaders and what's behind the scenes of any
mm,
service, whether I'm going to work for them, whether I'm going to learn with them, whatever it might be. And anyway, I've just like did a lot of observing like of Belinda, and we worked together for a while, and anyway, Belinda is just, I found her to be authentic. She'd be all right in her vulnerability. She really cared about the coaching, and she like came across that way, and it's like, wow, you really do. And she was like living it and
Mm.
breathing it, and I mean all the ups and downs of life as well. And it's like, wow, and what, this is in a coaching framework, it's like to help others. Oh, I'm in, I'm definitely in. And so, it stirred things up in me. It felt like it was about to be making a deeper commitment, to learn. I had that sense. Um, but it's like it was a kind of a no-brainer. And she was like the living, breathing, and she was at the heart, of this, and getting it all going. And so it's like, well, if that's what coaching is about, and that's who's behind it, that's in the foundation, I'd really want to be part of that. I'd really like to learn from that. There was no rah-rah, no kind of glamour, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That can appeal, but it didn't appeal to me. I like the realness, like the authenticity, and like, to get into the nitty gritty of things, and there's that spirituality in there, and it's like, she just brought it in, and it's like, yes, I really want to do this. And the more I sort of, felt into it, the more it just felt strong. And, I've done a couple of courses now, like when it was a Cert 4 in, I think, 2010 or 2011. And then when it became the diploma, because the core competencies change, it's such a good framework. And it's like, as a trainer, as well, it's like there's a really good framework, for any practitioner. And it's like, so, use it with yourself, in the space when you're working with others. It's like, how could you say no to that? So it was very exciting, like in that way. It really
Yeah.
ignited me in lots of ways. So yes, there were kind of light bulbs going off. I told you we'd digress, like we have.
I think that's perfect, Lisa, because you're sharing your heart there about where the moment was, and it's just like fireworks where you just know all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's that thing that I've been looking for, and now's the
Yeah.
time. And also a beautiful example of someone who's walking the talk and being an example, and how her doing that was a mirror for you and something that really attracted you in. So it's a brilliant example. And for those of you who don't know, Lisa's talking about Belinda Bailey, who's the
Oh,
founder
yes.
of the Global Coaching Academy. And I was invited to become a business partner and facilitator of GCA in 2024. And she is just so brilliant. So, and love her dearly. And myself and Marguerite have joined her now to evolve the academy. It's part of why we're doing some of these interviews, to raise awareness just generally about coaching. We love coaching, and it's so magic, and there's so much in it. And the diploma that we offer is a diploma in mentoring, coaching, and interpersonal facilitation. And it's just brilliant. It's a 12-month course, and it's just so introspective. And a lot of people just go on that 12-month journey for their own personal spiritual development. A lot of people want to make a career of coaching and or mentoring. So we cater for both people there. It's just beautiful. And I feel very privileged to be taking the reins somewhat with Belinda and Marg now. It's been a beautiful 12 months. So what I'll do is I'll put a link down below where Belinda is talking about her journey and the origins of Global Coaching Academy. We just did a video on that last week. So I'll put some links in the description so you can follow. And if you want to know more about Global Coaching Academy, it's globalcoach.com.au. All those details will be in the description. So thanks for bringing that up, Lisa. That's perfect, because she's an absolute treasure, and she's written that course, and it's just, I've been getting familiar with the course because I'm facilitating it now, and it's just brilliant. There's just so much woven in there, and it's just really deep. There isn't that real rah rah, but we still are very much championing you to be the very best you can be, and we care about your evolution, not just as a coach but as a human being. And we want to tailor make your journey to suit you and to suit your your personal spiritual development, because everyone's unique. So yes, love the course and very grateful. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a great example, Lisa. So yes, I would like to know a little bit about the job that you do, because I know that you're training, right? But the coaching, you're doing a bit of coaching in there as well. I know you're doing some one-on-one sessions coaching, but what can you explain to us what your job is at the moment?
Sure. Um, Look, for the past 25 years, I've just been in the learning and development space, really helping people grow and learn. And a lot of that has been training. And what I do now, I do a couple of things. I have one of my big roles, I guess, is I do a lot of facilitating. So I help staff in organisations internally and externally. I help them develop personally and professionally. So some of that is, and so a lot of them are clinicians as well who
Mm-hmm.
work with clients. Not all of them are. They're in all different industries. So my role is I facilitate coaching. I deliver training. I work with clients to develop training programs, and a lot of that is very much in the workplace wellbeing space. So,
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah.
resilience, self-care, kind of a lot of those
Oh,
things, a lot of those conversations about,
yeah.
what it's really like and what people are experiencing. A lot of vulnerability
Mm,
comes. So that's one of the things. I also run meditation and self-development classes or groups, once a week. There's a lot of spirituality that comes in there, very holistic approach. And I also do one-on-one sessions with people who really just kind of want to skyrocket a little bit more and just have that one-on-one support for whatever they
yeah.
want to work on and what they want to grow with. So I guess it's all of those things,
Yeah.
yes, that I do in terms of, what coaching comes to touch.
Yep. Oh, it was just moving when you was something when you were sharing there, something really moving in me where you were talking about helping people in the workplace, with resilience and self care. There was just something moving about that, because not so long ago those services weren't provided for people in companies, and it was just like I was like, oh, Lisa's bringing this to companies and different people from different walks and different businesses. I'm like, that's really awesome to be sharing and teaching people about self-care and all those sorts of things, which is so valuable, and helping people to get real and how is it actually for you in the workplace, and what do you need to do, how can we help you be better so you can be not only more proficient at your job, but just better in your life generally. It was just like, oh, there's some lovely things happening in the world, and I just felt that that's quite beautiful. It's not all darkness out there, and there is some lovely things happening, and they've got you, Lisa, and I know you, so I know you've got such a big background in the helping profession and personal spiritual development, not just the coaching, but such a breadth of experience and knowledge that you have. So they're getting so much, and it comes back to what you were talking about at the start. Not necessarily do they need to know that, or you need to tell them about your experience. You just hold a presence with all of your experience in it, which is really beautiful. So I'm glad they've got you in there.
Thank you. It's thanks, Jay, for saying that. I kind of just see it as a privilege, and
Mm,
yeah, it's a privilege, but coming back to coaching and I guess the privilege and yeah, being in that space, um, there can be so many different types of workplaces and different things going on that are not spoken about, um, that are not verbally acknowledged or that are
yeah,
felt. And I say this so often when I'm talking like to HR teams or managers that, yes, we think this is what they need and we want, and it's like, um, just got to keep, yes. So there's a magic that can
mm,
happen when those conversations can take place in the space, just the special space just to have conversations around those things. That's kept as it's designed to be with coaching. So when it's the group led or the client led, where there's that confidentiality, you know, kind of the whole framework, the ethical framework, you know, the interpersonal skills, the space that you hold, like all of that with the questions, the right questions, the curiosity, you know, when you kind of facilitating in that space and it's held, um, that's what I mean, like the magic can happen. People feel that, you know, it's okay to bring something up and it's kept there. So, you know, it's not even shared with management, and they know that from the very beginning. And so
Yeah.
it's kept there, but then we can get real, as you say, you know, and
Yeah.
acknowledge what's going on and what can you do moving forward. It's kind of not telling them. So they kind of do it for themselves, and that is what coaching does. You know, when we're doing it and we're living and breathing those core competencies, and there's a
Yeah.
trainer in there coming out, it's like it's the framework. And it's like, you know, if you're working well with that framework and you're making it work, it's like that's what people can do for themselves. And it's
Mm.
like that's what it is. And it really is like a privilege. It's like, oh, I love this. You know, I really love this. And it's not always easy, you know, but it's just a wonderful thing. It really is a privilege, and it's a testament. If you kind of, you know, can bring what we're taught with coaching, it's a testament to, you know, how well you can, I guess, hold that for yourself as well. So there's a lot of
Mm.
growth that can come, you know, from all of that. Anyway, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's good to witness. It's very helpful to witness, um, and to see it grow like that, because then, you know, they pass it on. And sometimes it can't even be described. It's not like you know, a competency or a step or a box you can tick. It's like there's
Mm.
a slight shift or transformation in, you know, what someone allows themselves to experience, or what they'll talk to a mate about, or, you know,
Mm.
acknowledging something that they want to work with that otherwise they wouldn't be. And it's really all the coaching skills. That's what you know, that's what we learn. That's what we're holding for a client. They come into their own realizations. It's wonderful. Another tangent. Sorry. Just
No, it's not a tangent. It's not a tangent. It's joy. I feel your joy in that and privilege, and that's awesome. And I love it because little do those people know when they're going through sessions and you're going through those training, little do they know that they are actually learning how to coach themselves, and they're soaking up these new skills as you hold that for them and give them that experience. Often people are just shifted and they learn how to do that for themselves. And I love hearing about this in the workplaces, because if people don't talk on stuff and have a safe place, to a non-judgmental place to bounce things and to just share openly, things fester, and that's when things can get out of hand, when people aren't being honest and they're suppressing how they're really feeling, and things can blow up unnecessarily. Whereas if things are out in the open and there's coaches involved and there's care for the human beings that work for you, there's genuine care, like what's going on, how can we do this better? And there's a real openness with that. There's always better ways. There's always middle ground, that, you know, the bosses and the middle tier and the lower tier. There's always middle ground where there can be more harmony. Yet that won't happen unless it's spoken about and things are really put on the table. So kudos to any CEOs out there and companies that are incorporating this into their culture. I feel it's really, really important. Yeah. And the core competencies have been mentioned a few times tonight. So for those of you who don't know, ICF, International Coaching Federation, the foundation of the ICF is these 8 core competencies that they have now. And so there will be videos on that on this channel. We're going to break down the competencies and explain them more. But yeah, like you said before, Lisa, what a perfect, beautiful framework to base any bloody therapy on, really, not just coaching. It's just wonderful.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Nice one. So, in all your years then coaching, What do you
Mhm.
feel have been the biggest challenges, or are there common challenges for you as the coach?
Um, I've found the biggest challenge, it really comes back to any insecurity that I might have in myself, really. Really, that's what it comes down to, and expectations come into that as well. I've just come again through coaching, and working with people for so long to really appreciate that, we have ups and downs. We have a continuum. We're not always our best. Sometimes we're better than other days. It just is how it is. And so we can be going through anything, at any time, even if we're, functioning well or functioning normally. And with, challenges with coaching, when I talk about insecurity, ups and downs and all of that. So if we have clients in a group or an individual client, and they're going through their own stuff. They can be going through, resistance or no resistance, or maybe they've been bloody told to go there, that they have to, or they have expectations of themselves. That's something that you sort of meet up against. Now, as a coach, if I, and it's always come down to really, my attitude with myself, that's where I bring in the
Mm,
insecurity. If I make it about me, and I have an expectation of the client or an expectation of myself that, oh, it's because of me, it's all about me. I should have said this and I should have said that, and they didn't have this breakthrough, or they didn't have an aha moment, or this didn't happen, or that didn't happen. Or wow, it was a bit rough, it wasn't smooth. And sometimes it's like that, that's kind of, that's what
mm,
I've just come to really appreciate the journey. Sometimes it just feels rough. And
yeah.
sometimes, however, it just feels, however, that's just kind of all okay. But if the, if a client or, a group is going through their own kind of roughness in any sort of way, and that's um, and it doesn't feel as smooth, or it doesn't go to plan, or um, it didn't meet any expectations, whether I was conscious of them or not, then that, I guess, that's challenge in itself, because sometimes it's the organizational expectation. It's like, we want to work on this, um, and
Mm,
it can be my own self. I've failed, or I've projected my expectation onto the clients or the client. And it's like, what has it got to do with me? That is their individual journey. It's like, I wouldn't want to be imposing myself on them. But when I've reflected, so most often it's because of an expectation that I've had, either of them or myself. Oh gosh, I've been, really rotten facilitator today, or, not so well, or, I sort of gave in a bit there. I wasn't my best in whatever way.
yep. Yep.
So I've still made it about myself, and sometimes, not, I've forgotten, in some moments, that it's completely about the client. It's their journey. We've made an
Mm,
agreement in terms of what they'd like my support with and what we're working on. So I'm kind of, like steering, I guess, in the background, keeping it on track. But it's about them and their process and what they're ready for. And it's like, that's one of the big keys with coaching.
mhm,
It's like, you facilitate, you ask the questions, but it's almost like you're sharing the head and heart space with them to find the right questions, or the right, things to reflect back, or to offer a challenge, but it's just so they come into their own knowing according to what they're ready for. They've got it in themselves. It's not me imposing. So I guess the challenge, it's a little bit, maybe it's not really complex, but it's full, in that way. It can be, that's why I say I've made it about myself, when, I've always reflected, what could I do differently? What, was it the space? Was it my boundaries? Was it my questions? And it's like, yeah, adapting, and sometimes less adaptive in the moment, or all of that, like the technical things that we learn. But mostly, the biggest challenge is when I've gotten in the way with things like that, because it's that is professional training as well. You have that, I've had that mindset, that's the outcome. I've got to perform a certain way, kind of got to do that, and it becomes rigid. And it really has to be a dance. With coaching, you're not being a trainer, you're not being a
Right.
consultant, you're not telling anyone. It's like that's
Yeah.
just not there. So if I'm doing it to myself, I'm not doing them any justice. I'm not being present with them. So I guess that's been the challenge. And the rougher, or when a client is a little resistant, they're not showing up kind of ready, or however I perceive that, then it can be a little bit more challenging, especially if I'm bringing a lot of mine in there and they're doing that. Then that makes it a more challenging space. If I'm, in a much better, I've got more, like, more energy or whatever that might be, then I may not perceive it so negatively. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it's usually around things like that.
Love your honesty there, Lisa. And there's a couple of, like, a lot of good points there. One of which I feel to talk on is, sometimes I've found, and I've heard other people speak on this as well, and I'm interested to hear your experience on it, is sometimes when we think we've had a shit session with the person, or, we've got these expectations that we didn't meet, and it could be really rough, because, you're saying it can just be like, oh, that was just awkward or whatever. Sometimes that might be our experience, like, oh my God, that's awful. But 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, the client's like, that was the best session ever. I got so much from that. Have you ever had that?
Sometimes I hear things, like that, but it's just made me realize that even that's still making about myself. Even
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
how really do I know what it was like for the client? It was,
yeah,
so yes, it could be. And yeah, sometimes I've heard that and I think, what? But yeah,
yeah,
it's funny.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and that's the key difference between coaching and mentoring and consulting is, coaching that we teach, and coaching under the ICF is all client based. We do not tell the client what to do on any level. It's coming from this place of the client is absolutely the expert in their life. And I really liked how you shared there that it's kind of like you share the heart and head space for a while, and our job is just to use wise questioning, so for them to explore and uncover what they already know deep within them. It's got nothing to do with us, it's just we are holding the space, and again using coaching techniques to help them uncover what they know within themselves, without being the one that knows it all and you should do this. It's not that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it can be there with the way we've been trained, or, that mindset that we do need to know and be the expert and show that we are, or, if we
I'm the
don't know, we
qualified
might,
one. I'm
yeah.
I'm the knower here. I'll tell you what to do, of course.
Or the
Sorry,
clients
keep
expect
going.
that. They could be
And
expecting that
that's,
as well.
yeah, and in some sessions, because you're the expert, they'll be like, "Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do." And that's why we always encourage people to set up an initial consult, just to interview the client really, and just get to know each other and see if you're a good fit, and really explain what coaching is and what coaching isn't, so that they know that in this particular space, when we're coaching, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is all about you exploring. And but yeah, I hear you with that with clients. Some clients are like, oh, you know more than me, and I want you to tell me what to do. And that's also something that can be used in that space and turned back around for exploration for them as well. So it can all be used. I
As
want to
long as
ask
we
you,
don't
Lisa.
get in our own way, and make that mean that we are special, that we do know better, or, if we're not feeling comfortable with what we're doing, to not fall into that. because it's
Mm-hmm.
all about the duty of care, and the client, and being as clear as we can for them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I've discovered. If that's what I mean by, I guess, using that word insecurity, if there's any sort of doubt or something in myself, really, those things can be used as crutches, and I don't even realize, that I'm doing it. So if, they put me on a pedestal, or yes, you're the expert, it's like, oh, I could sort of fall into that. It sort of feels a little better, but that doesn't serve
Yeah.
anyone, it's like those things. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful to hear you sharing that, Lisa, because coaches need to be working on themselves ongoing. It's not like you get accredited and that's it. So what I'm hearing you share there is that you're always working on yourself. If it's insecurities or doubts or those
Absolutely.
negative
Yeah.
ego traits creeping
Yeah.
in, it's like because none of us are enlightened Buddha yet. We've all got stuff going on, and it doesn't have to affect the client coach relationship. It doesn't have to, as long as we're acknowledging it and getting out of the way and looking at it post session and really doing the introspection ourselves. The ongoing work is really important as we go along, because that's how we will bring ourselves in the best way we can and be the clearest mirror when we're out the way. It's like you've said that a few times. It's like number one rule: learn how to get the hell out of the way
Yeah.
so the magic can happen.
I love that you acknowledge that, Jay, about, none of us are Buddhas yet. It's like, I think that's another thing that I observe, like in the workplace a lot, lots of workplaces, and, having these, I guess, really authentic, open, real conversations together. It's like we might expect, like, of ourselves, like here we're talking about being coaches as a facilitator, as a mentor, as a trainer, whatever, that we've got to be perfect, and that we, if there is stuff we're working on, then, either we kind of push it aside, we don't want to see it, or make that mean we're not good enough, we're not ready yet, we've got nothing to offer. It's kind of, I've always found there's always not someone, there's always something there to work on. I mean, if there wasn't, I
Mm.
wouldn't be growing. And it's like, so there always is. And I used to be pretty hard on myself, with things that I would find. And it's like, no, reflective practice is part of good practice anyway. But it's like there's always going to be
Yeah.
something that we're refining or working on. I think it's a good sign. So I'm really grateful that you acknowledge that, because that's also, I think, a good thing. Like you said, things can fester if you don't like acknowledge them and bring them out. And like so with ourselves, it's like it's a helpful thing to, it may sting a bit sometimes when oh, I do that.
Yeah.
It's like, great,
Yeah.
I can learn from it, and it's like you
Yeah.
learn so much by offering coaching to others. You learn so much about yourself. So yes.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
when is growing not painful? It's always going to sting a bit. Growing, we're growing, we're stretching into new ground and uncovering things about us that aren't wonderful. That's, there's going to be pain involved in any growing. And yeah, reflective practice is good practice and very encouraged, I feel, because as we grow as coaches, then we attract different clientele. And we've talked a lot about this on the show as well, Lisa, that you can only go as far with a client as you are willing to go with yourself. So the more work that we do on ourselves and the deeper we can go with ourselves, the more vulnerable we can be and the more authentic and honest we can be, that we're not enlightened Buddhas yet and we've got stuff going on still. We're just a
Yeah.
human being, and we might be a couple of steps ahead with some of the things we've learned, but we're not better than, because that's the other thing that can happen, which we touched on a little bit with in different wording, is there can be that superior inferior thing in workplaces, but also in coachee relationships, where that can, that I'm the expert and you're not. So really wonderful. What I'm hearing with you is just a lot of humility there. And yeah, it's wonderful, and that's how we can serve our clients in the best way, by to continuing to work and refine our own characters and get better ourselves. Yeah, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear if you are willing to share. You talked about insecurities, and when you were sharing there, it just felt like I don't know, some level of responsibility with your work when you're consulting, when you're training and teaching with these people in the workplace. I'm just wondering if you could talk us through, Lisa, if you have one of those sessions, a training or whatever it is, that does bring up insecurities, or you do feel horrible after it, you think it didn't go well. Talk us through how you coach yourself through that if all that stuff was coming up.
You're asking some good questions, aren't you, Jay? Good coach.
It's a good course that we teach.
It is a good course. I love the growth.
Plug.
Well, so step one is, awareness. So awareness, and during the session, it's not about me. So I certainly park. I'll park what's coming up for me. I need to be present with the client and my responsibility. So that's what I'm there to do. So I do that even if I feel like crap, it doesn't matter. I don't stop what I'm doing. I remember what I'm there to do. And I don't talk about what's going on for me because it is not about me. So, there have been, moments like, what is going on? So we're just talking about, when I feel that I need to reflect, or it's not so comfortable, or whatever. If it's with the client there and something's changed, I might acknowledge, wow, it feels a bit different, or, the energy's kind of lowered. So I might acknowledge it in that way. But when it's about me, so I like, I know it's going on with me, I will just continue. And then, when that's wrapped up and when that's finished, I will then take some time as I go about my business to transition, like from that, and kind of clear it energetically. I'll let go of any energy that I feel I might be carrying from the session or the client. So make sure it's mine that I'm feeling.
Sure.
So, my energy hygiene. So I'll do that and then address the feelings that are in me before I start to reflect. So, just accept what's really there. Sometimes, a session can stir up stuff in me that's mine, because like you said not so long ago, that I've forgotten exactly what it is, but it right. When we are able to face something in ourselves, we can hold that space for another, and that's kind of something else. But that is a very valuable gift we can bring to another, because we're not in any judgment, because we can face it in ourselves. So when I've found, something has stirred up in me, to sit with that as much as I can. So, it could be in the car, like afterwards when I'm leaving the site, and just to be with that feeling. So I might, after I park it, I'll bring it in and to feel through it, just to acknowledge the feeling. You feel it, then you can heal. So, and when that has kind of got it out, could be, anger, could be, feeling upset. And sometimes I've felt, real deep angst. Just kind of, as when that's passed, to sit quietly with my cup of tea, and kind of reflect objectively. Sometimes I've talked it through, like debriefing is very important, talked it through with colleagues, or my line manager. Sometimes, just to actually share it, verbalize it, I've been able to reflect myself and just kind of get it out and hear myself speak. And just kind of acknowledge what actually did happen, what are the facts rather than the perception, because it can be so clouded, when you've got stuff going on. It's like, okay, but if I'm still charged about it, I don't really do reflecting, I just kind of work through it. And then, there have been periods where I'll just actually, what actually happened? I go through like a reflective cycle. What happened? What was the outcome? Were those main things covered? And as long as, that's all okay, then I'll just kind of deal with what's been happening. And quite often for me, it's taken a day or a couple of days where, to have clarity, and just kind of there's nothing left. I've got no feelings, but it's a bit clearer now. It's like, oh yeah, it was that, it was that. And I've learnt not to jump the gun and not to start talking too much about, oh, what went wrong, or but just to take that time and give myself that time to process through it, reflect on it, and just time for the dust to settle so I can actually
Yeah.
see objectively, okay,
Yeah.
like how was this, and then maybe talk about it again. Like I've done that sometimes, and sometimes I've just kind of worked it out. And then, there's a bit of, sometimes the penny drops and I get an idea or inspiration about, oh, what needs to change. It could be, our practice, how we do
Mm-hmm.
something, or where my boundaries were breached,
Mm-hmm.
or, how I've done some of those and why that happened. And that's where, sometimes I've
Mm-hmm.
actually made decisions about, no, I won't work in that space again, or it needs to be another
Mm-hmm.
sort of someone who has expertise in that area. Whether I thought I had it or not, sometimes it's taken that, or a change in practice. I'm challenging management. It's like, no, we need to do this differently. And
Yep.
sometimes it's just been about me. I need to learn a little bit more, or just
Yep.
nothing, just it's okay. You know, Working in the mental health space, workplace well-being, got to walk the talk. So it's like, what's really going on? It's not such a big deal, but sometimes it takes a while and kind of not to judge it. So at times I've judged it a lot. It's like, oh, what's going on? Or I don't want to be seen feeling a bit messy, like,
Yeah.
or catastrophize or any of that, that they can be such
Yeah.
bad habits. But anyway, I guess it's not just coaching, it's all of those things. It's parenting myself through the process, my professional practice as well, reaching out for support and help, even if it's just to talk things through and get a clear reflection. And with certain ones, not everyone, ones who
Yeah.
are better at it than me, or,
Yeah.
ones who, sad to say, it's not the case with everyone, but some have my best interest at heart a little bit more than others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will reach out to them a little bit more. And I do have professional supervision as well. So, can unpack these things. So that's all part of it.
Yeah. That's professional supervision and support so important for people in the industry. Brilliant, Lisa. And it just sounded like the non-judgment was is a key piece within that. When you said that, it's like when I'm judging it, it's like it sounds like that's a
Yeah.
bit of a key piece. And when I'm not judging, it's like, oh,
But
yeah.
sometimes, I realize that, I'm judging the fact that I'm judging. It's like, I know, make it so
don't
complicated. I don't mean to. It's just
don't.
like, oh, that's been a habit. It's a habit, and
Yeah.
it happens in the workplace. We give ourselves a hard time, and it's like that's how you deal with it. It's like, no, so just learning more and more, I suppose, and comes back to coaching, comes back to the things
Yeah.
we learn.
Coaching ourselves. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your process there. Lovely. That's great. And I hope that's a value for people. I'm sure it will be for some people out there. A few more questions. I mean, you've touched on this, you've touched on at the start how much of a pleasure it is for you to be in this role. I'm wondering, could you choose a favorite thing, one favorite thing about being a coach?
Yeah, I can. Um, Favorite thing, to give someone else or a group of people the opportunity, the experience of being held in a non-judgmental space, and for
Boom.
them in that space to just explore for themselves. It's
Mm.
like that is the best thing. It's the
I feel
best
you there.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like if there's one person, or one experience, it's like not about me, but if they have, one experience with someone where they can just kind of unravel in that space or explore in that space or be curious in that space or creative in that space, that can be possible because of that. That is a wonderful thing, to use my skills and to be able to provide that.
Mm.
That's probably my favorite thing, because like we were talking about earlier, it's client led. It's nothing that's taught. And it's like, so then the client can lead themselves when that's being held, as they're learning to hold that for themselves. And clinicians can be the worst ones, I've found in my experience, for holding that non-judgment for themselves. They're so busy providing that for
Yeah.
clients. And it's like they give
Yeah.
themselves permission in that space. So that's a very humbling privilege, I guess, to do that. And it happens in the meditation and self-development classes as well, because people really want to soar and grow. And it's like,
Mm.
thank you, that I can serve in that way. So that's my favorite.
Yeah. Nice. I feel your love and your gratitude for that, Lisa. That's really lovely to feel and hear. And it's interesting that it can be such a healing experience just for someone to experience non-judgment, because the world is just so full of judgment. It can be
Mhm.
this real, like, what is this? What do you mean? And it can just be this really beautiful healing experience, just that, holding someone in a space of non-judgment. So brilliant. I'm sure a lot of people are getting great benefit from all your work. Thank you for sharing.
You're asking some big cheeky questions.
Oh, I'm just warming up. The big questions are yet to
Oh,
come. We are getting closer to the end. I guess, what do you feel coaching is in its pure essence? You've touched on bits and pieces around this, but what do you feel coaching is in its purest form? What is it?
perhaps uh, a way of facilitating or playing a part in the growth process, or it's a very sacred process, someone growing and evolving, and
Mm,
and that's what coaching can be.
yeah, indeed.
Is what I would say to be.
Beautiful, absolutely a sacred space to facilitate someone's growth. I mean, I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you because I feel your joy in it. For me, that's like, hell yeah. Like, thank you. And it's so beneficial for us as well as the coach. And that's another question I'd like to ask you is how, and again, you've touched on a lot of these points. How is being a coach benefited you, Lisa, specifically
Oh,
in your own life?
enormously. Well, the very beginning we were talking about the self-parenting, and not self-parenting as such, but they really are self-coaching, self-parenting skills that are our
Yeah.
responsibility as adults. We have a choice, we know better, and we can change our minds. So it's that, where you learn to be a product of what you do. Otherwise, I don't know, we're a hypocrite really, but anyway, so
Yep.
so becoming a product of what we do. Um, so there's enormous growth that comes from serving others, from working with others. I've learned so much, and even before I was involved in any learning and development, I was like in hospitality, and just so much learning about people, about others. So And that is usually a reflection in some way of myself. So, you know, with this, it's a great gift to become a product, serving other people, learning about yourself. You learn so much about yourself. I've learned so much about myself because, you know, whether it's through reflection or, you know, there's often, if not always, a reflection of myself in a client or group, you know, some sort of similarity, something I didn't want to see in myself, good, bad, doesn't matter, or something I've transcended and I didn't realize I've grown from, and now I can sort of hold a space for someone else because, you know, I've grown from it. You know, or the way I'm challenged and the way I might respond. Like there's so much learning, but it helps our own, you know, I guess self-actualization to be able to support another. You're helping someone else help themselves. So it's like you can't help but gain from all of that, especially if you value growth and development and, you know, reflection and all of those things, which I love. So it's like, wow, you know, I get so much out of it, holding myself accountable, like all of those. And they're basic, you know, but very important self-parenting skills, you know, like all of those things. It's like, so you just kind of become better, and then the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you confront builds and all of that, you're more curious, the more you see. And it's like, oh,
It
okay,
doesn't end.
I can be better, you know, not in a bad way, but it's like, oh, that was good then, but it's like, you know, so it's a gift that keeps on giving as long as the attitude sort of stays, um, you know, sees the universe as being very benevolent, like in that way. If you're holding that right mindset with coaching, it's just an ongoing gift in that way. I think that answered your question, but I've actually forgotten what the question was.
Yeah. It's like, how does it benefit you? How does being a
There you
coach benefit
go.
you? In
There
lots of ways, on lots of levels. So it's awesome. Great. So I want to ask you, Lisa, about the Global Coaching Academy, and then I've got a few fun questions I like to end all the interviews with. Firstly, though, out of all the coaching courses that you could have done, I know you spoke about Belinda was really the draw card for you. Could you drill down a little bit on that? And what do you feel for you was the point of difference? And this isn't bagging any other coaching schools, guys, because there are so many brilliant coaching schools out there. I'm just really curious to speak to our graduates and to say, what was the point of difference? Why did you end up doing this course and not the million others that are out there?
Yeah, it has to be a good fit, you know, for people. So there are lots of, yeah, like you say, you know, lots of courses and schools and yeah, I, you know, aware of what else is around. It has to be a good fit for me. I've got to feel comfortable. Well, GCA brought in, I guess, a spiritual component, so very holistic, also very real. And again, that kind of links in with Belinda and how, you know, I guess she kind of built that in. So I like that very holistic kind of approach. Even in training, you know, I like to find that somewhere because that's important. It's really there, not pretending it's not there. But anyway, better not go on a tangent about that. Anyway, so the holistic approach, the spirituality in it. Also, there's so much with the course that was very much about heal thyself. So
Mm,
lots of tools, you know, whether it was the archetype dialoguing, like just lots of good stuff that you could use for your own clarity, for your own healing. And, you know, we were talking earlier on, Jay, about how important it is to, you know, self-reflect and you become, you know, you work on yourself and like all of that. Um, well, it's all built in because you need to experience it to be able to help a client and offer them tools and work with them. But it's kind of all built in so that we've got things, tools we can use, strategies, that we can apply to actually reflect and heal and get ourselves in balance. It's like we can constantly be working on ourselves in a really good way and embracing our growth. And I really loved that too. That was kind of normal. You know, it's not about I've got to look like this and do this and then I go and do it to them and, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that was hard work. Like, oh, you know, I've got to like reflect this and, you know, look at this. And it's like, oh, you know, when I look back, and that was in the course, you know, when the very first one as well. When I look back, I can see, Jay, that there's so much in my life that I have been living and breathing from those things that I've learned that have just become part of my life. And it's like, great, you know, there's just stuff you can use. So stuff you can use for yourself as a practitioner that, you know, there's not a lot. Well, I don't know, you know, I don't know, but with people that I've worked with and had the privilege of coaching or delivering training to, like clinicians, it doesn't seem to be the norm to have a lot of your work on yourself, tools and strategies built in, whether it's university or other courses, because when we talk about those things in the room, it seems to come across as a surprise. Um, or, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's not really expected that you would keep working on yourself. And yet
Yeah.
it seems to be such a foundational part of what we learn with the course at the GCA. So you can bring that clarity and that, you know, that wisdom and the learning to your clients and to the space. So there was that as well. That makes it different to me. And I couldn't see a lot of that like around.
Nice, Lisa. Yeah, it was heartwarming when you were sharing that there's so many things that have integrated in your life that you can trace back to doing the course so long ago, which is lovely. Hard for things, I guess, not to stick, being such a reflective and introspective course, and where we really unpack ourselves and know thyself and heal thyself. So that was really lovely to hear, and absolutely just touching on the holistic approach and the spirituality. We do take into account mind, body, and spirit at GCA. We know that you're more than just flesh and bone. So that's woven in there, that holistic approach. And there's so many practices to get you in touch with a deeper, more truer part of yourself. So yes, wonderful to hear your experience of that, Lisa. Thank you very much. And again, all the details will be in the description. Now, I've got 3 questions for you. Fun questions that I like to ask everyone. I don't
Yeah.
tell everyone that I'm going to ask them this either. So, if you could, now, do I adapt this to coaching or just generally? If the if you could only take one lesson with you into your next life, if everything was scrapped except one lesson, what would that be? One thing you could remember from this life as a coach, just generally, one thing that you could remember.
As a coach, generally.
Well, let's scrap the coaching bit and I'll just ask Lisa.
Okay.
If there was one thing, you could only remember one thing in your next life, what would that be?
To treat my life and all the opportunities in it as a sacred journey.
If you could get
Having,
that. Hmm?
yeah, having been one who's done a lot of, you know, self-criticism and judgment and poo-pooing, you know, experiences that have been hard or rough or mistakes and, you know, bouncing back, whatever, kind of all of that. We used to poo-poo it, like to look at it differently. It's a journey. It's filled with gems. The universe is benevolent. It's like remember that, you know, that mindset. It's like and that's you know, and I'm bringing coaching in again. I can't help it.
Of
Like
course. It's
when you can really embrace that, I find then I can see the sacredness in others, the unique journey of others as well. Stuff that we
mm.
can't see. There's so much intelligence at play. Our little human brains can't work it out. But it's like, wow, that's so unique. And of course, it's going to be client led. It's unique. It's unique to them, their process, their life, their journey. Sometimes we see it, the client can't see it. And it's like just like ourselves. We can look back and poo-poo and I was this and that was that and this was bad and it's like, oh, there's got to be something in this, to learn from, to grow from. It's like it's a sacred journey. If I just like remember that even through the rough times, um, like through menopause. But anyway, yes, it's
That's
a
another
sacred.
podcast.
Yeah, okay. It's a sacred journey. Like to treat it as a unique journey. We all just have a unique one. And to
Mm.
remember that, if I could remember that next life, that'll set me up in good stead.
Well, I do hope you do remember that.
Okay.
I'm sure your life would have been different if you came in this life with that understanding really deeply entrenched in you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
nice one. Now, Lisa, if the universe waved her magic wand and you
Hmm.
were able to say something to every person on the planet that they all deeply heard in their beingness, what would you say to everyone living on the planet in these moments, early 2025?
Make lots of room in your life for love and to practice being a good human being. And the more we can
That's
do that, the more we can embody our potential because then that's how it's expressed.
let's just let that soak out into the ethers of the world. Brilliant. Make lots of room for love. Absolutely. Yeah, nice one, Lisa. And one last one. Fun little questions for me and interesting. I love asking these questions. I just love it. I love all the unique
I
responses.
can
It's lovely.
tell.
uh, Now the universe has waved her magic wand, and you can create a law on this planet that naturally, no, naturally, everybody would follow. What would that law be? Universal law making, Lisa. That's it.
It would be what I just said. Um,
Mm.
to practice being a loving, good human being so that, and to help others do the same. And it, and and I don't know if you can feel it. That's not about having like a little opinion about how we should be. It's like to grow, you need love. It's not just love. You need love is expressed in like lots of ways. Um, but the more we can teach ourselves to hold more love and to express lovingly, whether that's through boundaries or lots of ways, patience, kindness, courage. The more we train ourselves to embody this and be this and help others to do the same, the more balance can be restored, because we can embody our potential. But when there's plenty of stuff there and we let it be there instead of grow through it, we can't really embody all of our potential. And, so it's kind of a win-win, but not just ourselves, like to help others do that for themselves as well. So it will be extending like to help others, you know. Probably all reach that stage and where that we all feel that way. We'd really like to, but you know, in my observation, we don't always prioritize that or make that such a priority. So it would be more of a priority.
Nice one, Lisa. And I'm sure the planet would evolve and change very quickly if that law was
It
set.
would. It would, I
Yeah,
guess.
it would
Yes.
snowball really quickly. And in saying that as well, everybody's where they're at and nature will take care of it. And
Yes.
working towards a better world, a more loving, compassionate world of peace and harmony and all of that sort of stuff, which isn't a fairy tale to me in my heart, but it won't be made so unless we embody those changes. It will remain as potential and as a fairy tale unless people on the ground really look into their heart and ask themselves, okay, what are the changes in the world that I'd like to see? And not just have it on their wall on a canvas print or a sticker, but truly look within and what are the changes for me uniquely in my life would I like to see in the world, and then go about embodying those changes and transforming ourselves so that we are living the ideal of what the change is in the world that we want to see. It's a beautiful thing. And the more of us that do that, then the world has to change. And a lot of people out there still have a mindset of what can I do? But if no one does anything, nothing changes. And it's the ordinary people living in extraordinary ways and bringing their best to everything, bringing the most love and compassion and acceptance and all of these wonderful qualities to all walks of life. That's how we'll change the world. So lovely to hear, Lisa. I just want to wrap up. Is there anything you'd like to say to anyone out there who's thinking about becoming a coach?
Yes. One would be coaching can help be a vessel for those things that you just talked about. The other thing would be this is such a wonderful set of tools that you can bring to any vocation. If you work with people, even, you know, work on yourself, like you can apply this to yourself, but you can apply these skills to just about any role where you're working with other people. And it's a really valuable skill set, like to have that will hold you in good stead. So I recommend it, you know, and it can cross over too. You know, there are similar skills in other approaches. You know, you can really utilize these skills. So it brings great value in that way. And that's it, I think, Joe.
Brilliant, my friend. And I just so happen to know a wonderful coaching course. Again, details will be in the description. If you want to know more, myself and Marg, we run a live info call most Saturday mornings, where you can jump on a Teams meeting and ask us any questions you want about the diploma and what we offer, and we can send you an info pack, and you can get to meet us and get a feel for who we are and what we're offering at the Global Coaching Academy. We would love to meet you. Wonderful. We've got another intake in July. We've got 2 a year, usually at the start of the year and in the middle of the year. So get in touch with us. Details again will be in the description. Lovely chatting to you, Lisa. That was fun.
You too,
There's a lot
Jay.
of good stuff in there. I'm so glad that you stopped by. Thank you very much. Awesome work that you're doing out there. Keep going. And it's just wonderful that you are out in the world doing what you're doing there and shining a light as you are in everything that you're involved in. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for the opportunity and for the fun.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Must have fun. Yeah, nice one. So, guys, that's it for this episode. Lots of love. Stay bright. Remember, never ever give up, and let's change this planet.